Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, I'm kicking off a brand new series where I'll be diving into some wild stories from Reddit. Now, let's get into our first story. The title is, My Best Friend Pretended to Be Friends with Me for Years Just to Sleep with Me. We actually met back in college while we were both living in the same house. Rent was cheap and we were all pretty broke, so you had about 15 guys and girls packed into this one place. Honestly, it was a total nightmare. The house was filthy and falling apart, but the people were decent, and I ended up making some really solid friends, including a guy named Mike. I never felt any romantic spark with him, so I just wasn't interested in that way. Still, because we were living under the same roof and going to the same classes, we were practically joined at the hip. Over the next 5 years, we grew super close and eventually became best friends. We both dated other people and were always open about our relationships. Mike never acted out of line or crossed any boundaries with his own girlfriends. He was always respectful, loyal, and just a plain good guy. That said, there were 2 times where he clearly had a crush on me. When we first met, he tried to flirt with me, but I didn't feel the same. Then, about 4 years into our friendship, after I'd just ended a 2-year relationship, he tried it again. This time, I shut it down pretty firmly. I wasn't trying to be mean, but I needed to be clear so there wouldn't be any false hope or confusion. That breakup had really wrecked me, and I spent a lot of time in therapy trying to get my head right. Honestly, that was the main reason I turned him down. I just crawled out of a rough situation, and I knew it wouldn't have been healthy to jump straight into something new. Now, look, I'm just some random guy on the internet, so my take might not hold much weight. But since this was posted on Reddit, I'm gonna give you my 2 cents. You made the right call. My motto has always been that you've got to be happy on your own before you bring someone else into your life. I'm no expert, but I feel like that just makes everything a whole lot easier. You handled that well. Anyway, let's keep moving. That was over a year ago. I've been single for a long while now and haven't even been doing any casual dating. I've just been using the time to heal and grow. That brings us to this past week. Mike and I have been talking every single day, without fail, for over a year. We mostly stick to texts and calls since we live pretty far apart, but recently, he decided to fly out and visit me. I was actually really excited about it. I told him he could crash at my place to save some cash, since I live alone and had the extra room, so I set up a spare bed for him before he arrived. When he got here, it wasn't awkward at all. We'd been best friends for almost 5 years, so we were comfortable. But as New Year's Eve rolled around, he asked if he could kiss me. I felt like I was finally in a place where I could trust someone again. I'd known Mike for years, and I truly believed he wouldn't intentionally hurt me. So, I said yes. We're older and more mature now, so that kiss naturally spiraled into something way more intimate during the rest of his trip. We shared some really personal moments, sleeping in the same bed, taking showers together, and just cuddling on the couch while watching movies. Everything felt so natural and cozy, but then his trip ended and he headed back home. I wasn't expecting a full-blown relationship or even a friends with benefits deal, but I definitely expected us to talk about what happened and figure out where we stood. Instead, he just stopped messaging me entirely. We went from talking for hours every day to nothing but silence. Man, this is exactly why people say not to cross that line. When you're best friends with someone and you take it to that level, you're putting the entire friendship on the line. What would you do in this situation? Leave a comment with your thoughts. I'm curious to see how you'd handle that kind of drift. Anyway, that's where the post ended, but there's an update. Let's dive in. Hopefully, there's a happy ending here. Maybe he just freaked out a little once he got home and realized he was scared he might have messed everything up. I'm kind of rooting for Mike here. I really hope he didn't ruin it. So, here's the update. A lot of people were asking for one, and while I didn't think there would be anything to report for a few days, it's here. Buckle up, because I'm actually kind of nervous about this. Mike finally texted me. He sent a message like nothing ever happened, totally ignoring the fact that he'd been ghosting me. I replied, keeping things normal, and we chatted a bit about nothing in particular. I was at work, so I waited until I got home to ask him what was actually going on. I sent him a message saying it felt like he'd been avoiding me. He replied that he wasn't avoiding me at all, he was just busy playing games, and forgot to talk to me. He also claimed the vibe between us didn't feel weird or different. I pushed him and asked what our week together actually meant to him. He told me it was just two friends having fun, and nothing more. He's not interested in anything romantic. So yeah, it's not the happiest update, but it's definitely the most realistic one. Thanks to everyone who commented on the last post, he wasn't cheating on anyone like some people guessed, and he wasn't just confused. We're still friends, and I stand by what I said earlier, I'm just glad he didn't disappear completely. He's still my buddy, and I respect his choice. I have to be honest, I was expecting a much juicier conclusion to that first story. I thought maybe they'd patch things up or at least have a deep, emotional conversation about how the dynamic had shifted, but instead, it just kind of fizzled out. It's just a dude being a dude, right? I'm not exactly shocked that his response was basically just, yeah, I'm chillin'. It really sucks for the OP, though. I mean, they live so far apart, and this was her first real romantic spark since that rough breakup that required therapy. Getting involved with your best friend is always a gamble, and the odds were definitely stacked against them from the start. I guess I have to respect how forgiving she's being, even if just sweeping it under the rug feels a little strange. Even as a guy who doesn't love talking about his feelings, that whole situation feels pretty intense to just brush off. Since I don't have every perspective, I want to take a look at a few of the top comments from Reddit to see what others think. The most upvoted comment, with over 2,000 likes, just says, oof. This is one where I don't think the friendship will ever be back to what it was. Yeah, that person is probably right. It's exactly like dating a coworker, it can get messy fast, but doing it with a best friend is honestly way worse. It's like a scene out of a sitcom. Then there's the second top comment, which says, I mean, that's still really messed up. He asked if he could kiss you, which led to way more. He spent a whole week with you, took you to movies, cuddled, and slept with you, only to then avoid you and act like it was just friends having fun. I'm a guy, and I don't understand dudes like this at all. He should have been clear about his intentions before anything happened. I agree with that person 1,000,000%. They hit the nail on the head. We've all seen this, if you're in your mid-20s like me, you're in the thick of the dating world. You have to look out for the other person's heart. If this guy knew he only wanted something casual, he should have made sure the OP was on the same page to protect her feelings. It happens all the time where one person gets attached while the other is just having fun, but when you're best friends, you should really know better. Use your head, man. We've all made mistakes, but that one was just obvious. Anyway, I hope the OP is doing okay. Also, let me know what you think about how I'm running these videos. Should I stop interjecting with my own opinion, or do you like the commentary? Should I keep reading the top comments? This is a work in progress, so I'm open to your feedback. If you have stories you want me to cover or subreddits you think I should check out, just send them my way. Let's move on to story number 2. Just a reminder, these are all pulled from the True Off My Chest subreddit, so feel free to check them out yourself if you're curious. Story number 2, my boyfriend thinks I don't know about his secret. Okay, this one sounds like it could be pretty fun. The OP is a 27-year-old female, and her boyfriend is 21. She says he has a little secret that he thinks he's hiding, but she's totally onto him. Apparently, he plays guitar, and every single time she mentions she likes a song, he secretly learns how to play it. It's like clockwork, she mentions a track, and then about 3 weeks later, he'll act casual and say, hey, check this out, before playing it for her. The first time it happened was early on, we'd only been dating for 6 months. We were driving somewhere, Dance the Night Away, by Van Halen came on the radio, and I told him I liked it. 3 weeks later, after another date, he invited me over and showed me he'd learned it. It was honestly so sweet, and he sounded great. He played it off like he was going to learn it anyway and just happened to remember that I liked it. Since then, he's done it with Fly by Night by Rush, Oh, Pretty Woman by Van Halen, and The Ocean by Led Zeppelin. That's when it hit me, this isn't a coincidence. He's actively seeking out the songs I like just to learn them for me. He still thinks his little excuse works, and honestly, I think it's adorable. Plus, he sounds amazing. That's the whole story for that one. Honestly, I didn't see that coming, but man, that is just incredibly wholesome. This guy sounds like a total keeper. I also think it's hilarious that after all this time, he's still playing it cool, acting like it's just a massive coincidence that he happens to learn every single song she mentions. I don't have much more to say because things are genuinely going great for them, so shout out to that couple. I really hope they go the distance. Moving on, though, wow. I have a feeling this episode is going to be packed with nothing but relationship drama. This next story is quite long, and the title is, My Fiancé Disappeared for a Beach Weekend, His Dad Called Me, and he later dumped all my stuff on the lawn while I was at a Phillies game. For anyone who doesn't know, the Phillies are a baseball team. So, she was at a ball game when this all went down. Let's get into it. She was with her fiancé for 6 years, starting from the end of high school all the way through college. They weren't just, someday maybe, engaged, this was the real deal. They had signed a legal contract for a house together and were deep into wedding planning, deposits were paid, bridesmaids' dresses were ordered, the works. It was a serious, grown-up commitment. And here is where things start to get scary. You can just feel the floor dropping out from under them. During his senior year of college, his drinking habits picked up, and the vibe shifted. Twice, when she went to visit, the girls living next door or down the hall would show up, see her, and he'd immediately leave the room to go talk to them in private. She called him out on it, because obviously, if you're engaged and your neighbors keep popping in and you keep disappearing to talk to them alone, you don't get to act surprised when your fiancé gets suspicious. No kidding, right? There were other red flags that, in hindsight, clearly show this guy was juggling multiple stories. He invited her to a party at his college, but when she arrived, he was nowhere to be found. His roommate actually had to go track him down. When they finally found him, he acted like he was so happy to see her and claimed the party was boring, saying he'd rather just hang out with her later that night. They ended up being intimate in his room, but afterward, he said he was exhausted and wanted to sleep, which, sure, could have been normal since it was late and he'd been drinking. But she went to her friend's dorm afterward, and something felt off. She looked out the window toward his room, and the light was back on. She remembers that sinking feeling in her stomach, that moment where your body realizes something is wrong, even while your brain is still trying to be polite. Then Memorial Day weekend hit, and the mask completely slipped. He was supposed to visit Friday night, and they had plans to go furniture shopping Saturday morning. Remember, they had a house contract. Saturday came, and he never showed up. No call, no answer. For about 6 hours, she called 3 times and left a message saying she was worried. She even checked with their mutual friends because she genuinely didn't know if there was an emergency or if he was just missing on purpose. Around 2 p.m. his dad called her and said, and I quote, he didn't want to get in the middle of it, but her fiancé was in Ocean City with friends and would call her when he got back. So he wasn't missing, he was just gone. And his family thought it was perfectly acceptable to just say, your fiancé disappeared, don't worry about it. That tells you everything you need to know about how accountability worked in that household. When he finally showed up, he told her he wasn't sure he wanted to do this anymore and that he needed time. She offered the ring back, but he wouldn't take it. He just left, and that was essentially the last she ever heard from him. Just to be clear for anyone who might try to paint her as clingy, after that weekend, she didn't spend weeks calling and pleading. She called exactly one more time to leave a voicemail asking when she could pick up her things, and she got zero response. And here's the part that still makes my eye twitch. Seriously, the fact that it gets even worse than this is just ridiculous. This guy is a total piece of work, to put it nicely. I'm not laughing to be disrespectful, I'm laughing because it's just unbelievable that someone could treat another person like this. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but man, this is low. I mean, obviously, cheating is terrible, but let's keep moving because this gets even nastier. Instead of answering like an adult, he dumped her belongings on the lawn and porch while she was at a Phillies game. He knew exactly when she wouldn't be home because they had bought the tickets together. They aren't even from Philly, their local team is in the American League. She just liked going for some National League action once a year back when the pitchers actually had to bat, like the baseball gods intended. Anyway, some mutual friends were at the game with her. Her parents had to rush over to grab her stuff and bring it inside so the whole neighborhood wouldn't see. She remembers thinking, why are we hiding his behavior? Like I'm the embarrassing one? She didn't dump anyone's stuff on the lawn like a raccoon delivering a message. Meanwhile, because they had signed for a house and put money down for a wedding, she had to navigate the legal mess of getting out of the house contract and deal with all the wedding fallout. When it came time to sort out the house, he purposely arranged his part for a different time just to avoid seeing her. It wasn't about accountability, it was pure evasion. I'm sorry, but this guy is on a whole new level of soft. I mean, not having the guts to even be in the same room as her. You suck, dude. What would you do in this situation? Seriously, how would you even begin to handle that level of betrayal? Leave a comment with your thoughts, I'm dying to hear your take on this mess. Well, he really is just a terrible human being. Hopefully, he eventually grew up, but honestly, who knows? They were still in college back then, so maybe he eventually got his act together, but there's just no excuse for that level of cowardice. I'll stop jumping in so much, let's just finish the story. The OP wrote, for a long time, I felt embarrassed, like I'd been the idiot. But the older I get, the clearer it becomes. The embarrassing part wasn't me calling a few times because I was genuinely worried, the embarrassing part was a grown man disappearing, making his dad handle his dirty work, refusing to take the ring back, ignoring a simple voicemail, and then dumping my stuff on the lawn like he was canceling a subscription service. I'm not looking for advice, I just needed to get this out of my head because the shame never belonged to me. She added an edit, this was over 20 years ago. No, we didn't get the wedding money back. My family and I ate about $8,000 to $10,000 in deposits and expenses. Holy cow, that was 20 years ago. That must have been quite the wedding. 10 grand in 2006 feels like a massive chunk of change. Today, that's barely a down payment on a wedding, so you know she really got hit hard. She eventually got out of the house contract, but it definitely wasn't easy. She's posting this now because she's finally processed that the embarrassment she carried for all those years wasn't hers to bear. In her second edit, she mentioned that she only reached out once after that weekend to arrange a time to get her belongings back. Nobody answered, and a few weeks later, her stuff was just sitting on the curb outside her parents' house while she was away at that baseball game. She's rightfully proud of her younger self for never trying to contact him again after that. She has no idea what happened to him, other than seeing the occasional comment on mutual friends' posts over the years. Even when he wanted his own stuff back, he had his dad do the calling. She told his father she'd be happy to return whatever, but since the ex was an adult, she insisted on hearing it from him directly. She never did. Man, that's just mind-blowing. The fact that he was on a boys' trip and had his dad play messenger, not just once, but twice, is just pathetic. I'm not saying you have to be the toughest guy on the planet, but don't you feel like an 8-year-old boy doing that? You mess everything up, and you don't even have the spine to ask for your own stuff back. He really was a piece of work. Let's look at the top comments. The first one, with over 1,200 upvotes, says, "Hope writing this out gives you some comfort and peace." He sounds like quite the man baby. Yeah, no kidding. The second comment, with 417 upvotes, says, "Dang, that's rough. Glad the mask slipped before the wedding." You will certainly find and deserve better. That's a great point. It's horrible that it happened, but at least it happened before they were actually married. That would have made the split 1,000 times more complicated. I really hope she's with someone better now, or just living her best life solo. Also, shout out to his parents. I mean, I get being protective of your kid, but if I ever called my parents and asked them to break up with someone for me so I wouldn't have to deal with the awkwardness, they would have driven over and smacked me upside the head. And honestly, they would have been right to do it. You've got to own your mistakes and pull your pants up, metaphorically speaking, and handle your business like an adult. Anyway, I'm done rambling. I promise I'll try to keep the tangents to a minimum unless you guys tell me you like the commentary. Let's do one more quick story to wrap up this first episode. Hopefully, this one is a bit lighter. The title is, I'm straight, but I would turn lesbian for her. She's a 21-year-old female who has always identified as straight. Recently, a professor paired her up with a new classmate for a project. She says, I've never seen someone like her in my 21 years of living. I realized I might have a thing for women. The way she talks, the way she dresses, the way she looks at me, it's intense. I've never felt this way before. She is so hot, and it's like she knows I'm down bad for her. The other day, she caressed my hair while telling me she was proud of my work. Wait, hold on, then she says, I feel disgusted and shameful. Whoa, that is not where I thought that was going. She also mentioned their height difference. The OP is 5'7" and her partner is 5'1". She's trying to figure out if the other girl is into her, too. I don't know, man. To put it in friendly terms, she is really worked up over this girl. It's getting pretty intense. What did this story teach you about how people handle sudden realizations? Let me know your thoughts.